Well, you know what's funny is when I was a kid, my aunt would babysit us often. My dad passed away when I was really young, and so my mom was a single mom, and my aunt would watch us on the weekends and stuff so my mom could work. And she didn't believe in television. In fact, she referred to the television as the idiot box, right? She didn't have a television in her house, but she had records, and she would listen to records. And she was a cool aunt. She would let us listen to like Richard Pryor and George Carlin, you know. And I mean, I was really young, like in elementary school. So just to hear the swear words were like captivating to me, and like it was funny. And I could hear how like they were live performances and how the audience would respond to it. And I thought, even at an early age, I was like, that's what I wanted to do. And I remember like growing up, like even in high school, you know, I was the class clown, and I was always getting into trouble for, you know, making a joke. And I realized that this was something that I could do, but I didn't know how to do it, right? And so after high school, I joined the Navy, and I spent 9 years in the Navy. And during that time, you know, I could be funny to a certain degree, you know, because you're in the military, right? Before you get, you know, into some serious trouble, you can only be so funny. So anyway, so when I got out of that, when I got out of the military, I still had that passion, but I didn't know where to go, right? So I went to SAC Comedy Club in Orlando, and that's an improv type of training there. And I went through the first 2 levels of 4, and I didn't know like where to go. I tried to do something, but I knew this wasn't it, right? I didn't want to be part of a team. I wanted to be my own guy, right? I wanted my own material. I wanted my own stuff. And then one day I was lucky enough, I went to the Orlando Improv, and before the show they had the commercial for their comedy class, and I called the number like during the show. And before the show started, I stepped out and I called it. The guy answered. I said, "Great, I'll be there." I signed up for it, and that's where it all started. And but what's funny about it is, if I go back in time a few months before I got there, I was at work one day, and a friend of mine said that his girlfriend won free tickets to a bonkers comedy show in Orlando, and we were all going to go. I said, great. So we went that night, and Carmen Valone was the headliner. And I watched him, and after the show, we got together outside. We were just hanging out, like wherever, not like us together, but there was a bunch of other people. People were having a cigarette and a beer after the show, and I talked to him a little bit, and I was really enamored with it. I was like, wow, this is really cool, right? And I'm talking to the headliner, right? It was so cool. And then the next week, we won more tickets, surprise enough, right? Bonkers, we won tickets. But here's what's great about it is, we got to the show, and the headliner that night was Ken Miller. Ken Miller, right? I was just performing with him on stage. And I knew instantly, like, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. And then I went and I saw this show at the Improv. I signed up for the class. I walked into the classroom, and sure enough, I go in, I sit down at the table. It's kind of dark, you know, the comedy club lighting and stuff, and they were getting ready to start. And I sit down next to this guy, and he looks over at me, and he goes, hey, why did you get into this comedy class? Just like you asked me. And you know who that person was that asked me? It was Carmen Valone. And I looked at him and I laughed. I said, because of you. I saw you perform, and we talked after the show. He didn't remember any of this, of course, but anyway, but I've never forgot that. And I never forgot that following week watching Ken Miller at the Why Not Lounge in Bonkers Comedy Club, and then to have the honor to host for him or be up on the stage with him in a comedy competition. It's a pretty cool journey, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's pretty neat to feel that along that way. Petrified, terrified, right? I think as everybody is. I mean, that's completely normal. Our class, our comedy class, we had class on Monday nights, and then afterwards we would go to an open mic together as a team, right? And we went to the Belle Isle Yacht Club and it was like a garage, like an indie bar, and they converted this garage to a bar, and they had 3 TVs up on the back of the bar. I remember the 3 televisions for a reason, because the first time we went, we were all terrified, right? Nobody wants to go first, they're just petrified. And the only people that were in the audience were 3 people sitting at the bar with their backs to us, watching TV. Like, they didn't even turn the TVs off. The sound was on and everything. They were watching some TV show. And then, we were petrified, terrified to get up on stage. You know, everybody had to go to the bathroom. I don't want to go first. I got to go to the bathroom. And you'd go up there and you're supposed to do 5 minutes, and you do like 3 minutes. And it was just the most excruciating, painful moment in the world. And then, you know, lo and behold, there's a point where you pass through that phase and you just want to get on stage. You know, you want to grab that microphone. You don't want to get off. You know, it's some nights it's an addiction is really what it is. You know, you get that high and you just chase that high. You know, it's probably the best way to explain it. I have to tell you, I mean, I'm old school. I love a lot of old George Carlin and Richard Pryor. I think those are probably some of my all-time favorites. Bill Burr came out. I think he said a lot of things that the older generation wants to say, the older comics wanted to say. I don't think it was across the line on anything. I found it entertaining. I found it funny. Recently, those are probably the ones that stand out the most to me, just because I just saw them, you know, and they were funny. The Dave Chappelle show and the Bill Burr episode, I thought both of them were genius. I enjoyed them. I love Dave Chappelle. I think Dave Chappelle in this generation is the comedic genius of this generation. If you watch his old show, the Chappelle Show, those bits that he did were amazing. I mean, they weren't just funny. They were like, they were years later funny. You know, you recall back to them, and then that's I think the judge of good writing is, do you remember it? You know, you can sit and see a comedian perform and laugh, but then you walk out the door and you go, Jay, do you remember any of his material? No, but I laughed all the way through it. I could sit here all night and tell you Dave Chappelle material because it's that good. I like a bunch of different comedy movies. I'm old school. There's an old school movie called Slapshot. It's about a hockey thing. It was Paul Newman was in it. It was from the late 70s. That's an old funny one. I could sit and watch Three Stooges and laugh. I think Monty Python, that comedy troupe was hilarious. Growing up, I watched a lot of Monty Python as a elementary and middle schooler. So that kind of set a foundation for me, that crazy British humor. But most recently, I think Hangover was probably one of the funniest. It literally made me laugh like off my chair, you know, like I was like physically laughing and moving like in the movie theater. Like I just couldn't believe it. It was just that funny to me. So yeah. If it was somebody past that has already passed away, that category, Richard Pryor, without a doubt, hands down. If it was somebody maybe like old school that's still living, I would probably say maybe like a Jerry Seinfeld, just because of the masses that he must have been performing in front of, you know? And then new age guy, I think Brian Regan, I would like to perform with him, just because he's strictly a clean comic, and I'm not a clean comic by any means. We're clean, but I'm not a clean comic. But his writing is so funny to me. His act outs, I think, are brilliant. And then the other spectrum of a current comic that I would love to tour with would be Cat Williams, because that guy, I wet my pants when I listen to him. His act outs, his genius is brilliant. So those two, if I'm going clean, Brian Regan. If I'm going crazy, Cat Williams. boy, Anthony Jeselnik, just because he's just a crazy son of a bitch. Jeff Ross, because he's the master at it, right? I would say then I would like to see maybe Amy Schumer, just because she has that ability to sting, and I think a good roast has a little sting to it. And then from there, probably again Brian Regan, because I just think he's hilarious. And believe it or not, he's not a comedian, but I think he's funny as a comedian. Snoop Dogg. If you ever watch Snoop Dogg when he did the Donald Trump roast, it was probably one of the funniest things, funniest bits, just a few minute bit in a roast. But I would say Snoop Dogg, I'd throw him in there as well. I've been for the last year and a half featuring, and I'm extremely grateful for it. And where I'm at in my current phase is, I always believe you got to nail the level you're at right now before you move up, right? So when I started hosting, I wanted to nail that, and I feel like I did. And then from there, I moved up to feature, and now that I'm featuring, I want to nail that. As far as like going into the future, once I feel like I've got this level, like I've nailed it, and I'm ready to go, that's the next level. I just want to stay where I'm at right now on this landscape, is working on my message, like what's my routine. I feel like I'm finding my voice. I don't want to say that I found it, you know, but I feel like my stage presence and the persona that I want to be, I'm there with, and I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with it in my act outs. But I want to see what direction that goes. I think I would enjoy producing shows or putting stuff together like that. But for now, I think I want to just work on nailing being a feature, and then working my way up to being a headliner, you know. Well, here's the funny thing. So you can find me on Facebook, most primarily Scott Orbany on Facebook. I am on Twitter. Well, I have a Twitter account. I don't use it. And I have an Instagram account. I would love for you to follow me. I am trying to prove a message to a friend of mine that I can get 500 followers without ever posting anything. So I've never posted on Instagram. As soon as I hit 500 followers, then I will post. And I'm at like 465 right now, so I'm really close. So please follow me, because I got a lot to say, but it's a bet that I have, and I can't do it until I get 500 followers. Then I can post on the Instagram. So I've got to hold to it. So. Well, I think Cat Williams' Tink Tink routine that he does about the handicapped kid that doesn't have any feet, and he's got prosthetic running blades, and he refers to them as like bent backwards paper clips, and every time he would walk, he would make that noise, that tink, 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 tink. And so that was his bit about poor little Tink Tink in this race, and it's hilarious. If you ever get a chance, if you want to see something funny by Cat Williams, if you've never heard of Cat Williams before and you want to get a taste of him, that one routine is pretty damn funny. That's a good routine. If you want to hear something sort of mainstream and middle of the road, but also a genius writer, is Robin Williams, and he does a routine about playing golf and how they came up with, how the Scottish people came up with the golf, or the concept of golf. It's a very, very funny routine. And then Richard Pryor flashes in my head right now, where he does this routine about a pet monkey that he has, and the pet monkey dies, and his German Shepherd is his neighbor's dog. The neighbor has a German Shepherd, and then how the German Shepherd talks to him about his monkey. It's funny, and it's genius at the same time. So those are probably the three that just jump in my head right now. I think probably the number one thing that I think most audiences would probably take away from after seeing me perform for 30 minutes is why the hell isn't that guy monitored? Like, we need to watch this guy, right? He needs to be under some sort of supervision. I think they just need to understand that it's okay to laugh at themselves. It's okay to laugh at uncomfortable things, right? It just because you laugh at something that makes you uncomfortable doesn't make you a bad person, right? It's a defense mechanism, right? It's the way we deal with things. That's why comics sometimes can be so dark or depressed or anxiety-ridden. Well, they deal with things through their sense of humor, right? And that's the way they're surviving the insanity that sometimes is in their head. So just know that just because a comic jokes about something that you might think is over the line or might cross the barriers of political correctness, doesn't mean that that person is a bad person. They're just poking fun at something that they're uncomfortable with. That's the way they are trying to survive. Hey everybody, this is Scott Orbany, your local stand-up comedian right here in Central Florida, doing a live shoot for cutiepie.com at Pinups of Daytona Beach. That's right, I said it, Pinups of Daytona Beach. I'm at a strip club doing comedy. Why? Because my career is peaking, baby. I can't think of a better way to celebrate than to have my friend Sareth here from cutiepie.com interview me here in front of Pinups of Daytona Beach. Hi, Mom.